Greetings, dear ones. Happy Saturday, the 9th of January, to the end of what has been a very interesting week since we spoke last on January 2nd, the beginning of the year. Um, Today we are in full alignment with the current conjunction that follows on the trail or follows on the heels of um, the conjunction of December 21st. And that was, if all of you, if all of you are aware, any of you are aware, that was the conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter. And they're coming together so closely that it seemed as if they were one star, referred to as the Christmas star. And it was very cloudy here, so unfortunately we were unable to actually view it in this area, but many were able to see it. And there are plenty of photos still available, which I highly recommend you look into, because even through those of you who've worked with me before know that images, movies, things that show up on the computer have still live transmitting energies or energetics. And that's why no matter when you view something, for example, if those of you who are not here live today are viewing this at some point in the future, excuse me, just need a little bit of a support here. And those of you who will see this in the future, whether it's an hour from now or weeks from now, will still be able to receive the energetic transmission and utilize the information, and must really trust that what you are experiencing at any given time is the perfect combination of energetics and information that you need at that particular moment. So, for example, while it is very powerful to participate in, whether it's a conjunction or whether it is another configuration of the cosmos, or something presents itself through the earth to you, or through your particular form of creating, or your particular avenue for channeling something from another aspect of your wider self, which is what I refer to as the soul self. In any event, you are, and I think that's one of the primary messages, whether it's today's presentation or whether it is an individual work that allows for the, not just knowing in your head, not an intellectual knowing, but an actual physical, experiential knowing that you are never alone, never have been, never will be, never can be. And when we talk about this type of work, which is alchemy, alchemy meaning that there are a wide variety of factors, avenues of information, energetics that are presenting themselves at any given time, which goes into the large crucible or container. And then the energy of your personal, individual, emotional either response or what you're experiencing at any given time when those energetics are present allows for a transformation or transmutation. And that is most certainly the message of this year, this decade, um, and on into the new era, which we began at the end of December with that beautiful conjunction in Aquarius. And we are moving very, very fast, in case you hadn't noticed, forward. Even though with the events of this week, it appears as if we have digressed or gone into, or as being exposed at least, a level of devolution or de-evolution, which is certainly not the case. And we have so many teachers, so many helpers, so many other participants in this great project that indicate the opposite, that we are in an evolutionary process. I refer to it as an excuse me, as an evolutionary leap, because it is such a huge evolutionary process within a relatively short period of time. And by short period of time, I mean actually a generation. And that's really pretty unheard of when we're talking about evolution. As many of you who are familiar with science know, evolution in the traditional Darwinian sense takes place over millennia or even millions of years. That's the special thing about this Earth project. That is what is so powerful and unbelievably magical, is that we have decided to do this differently. Just going to open up a little bit of space, a little bit more space for us today, because there is a lot in this container, in this crucible. And it is an opportunity. It is something that has not been done this way, to this extent, to this depth, breadth, and width, certainly in this galaxy. And I would say even beyond, that's my information over the past years, is that this is something unique to the universe, because we have involvement of galactic forces, super cluster galactic forces. And those of you who are unfamiliar with those astronomy terms, a super cluster of galaxies means millions and millions of galaxies combined together. And they actually happen to form a spiral with arms. But we'll talk about that another day. And as well, the universe. So we have these multiple levels of evolution going on simultaneously. And the reason why not only that affects us, but how and why we affect those levels of evolution is because everything, certainly in the supercluster, if not the universe, is represented here on this planet. This is truly a microcosm of all that exists. And that's a discussion for another day also, but suffice to know that we are not by any means the only beings on this planet. There are representatives of everywhere in this galaxy and supercluster of galaxies, be it a particular category of flora, be it a particular animal, be it a particular insect. Everything is representing here, which is why I mentioned in my last talk, I believe, or this week when so much was going on. Forgive me if I'm confusing revelations of information, but they are all constituents. In other words, this planet has many, many, many beings who are voting for, choosing whether this planet evolves or stays in the old form of dualistic exploration that we have done for tens of thousands of years. From all the information I'm receiving from my ancients, which is an intergalactic council of advisors, teachers that have been with me for 2.5 decades, at least, have informed me that we have made that choice. Now, in order to do so, in order to evolve in a very short period of time, a lot of chaos, a lot of revelation, a lot of stirring the pot, a lot of bringing forward that which is held in shadow. And by shadow, that doesn't necessarily implicate evil or wrongdoing. It can indicate destruction. It can indicate the ending or death of things. It can hold energetics of harm and hurt to many. But that too is part of the exploration of a dualistic universal exploration. There has to be both ends. That's why, for nothing, I'm wearing black and white today, because the shadow is as important, as beautiful, as magnificent, as necessary. So what occurred this week in our country, not to mention what went on in the rest of the world, is a powerful, powerful, powerful catalyst for that evolution, for that transformation. And the conjunction of the particular planets that are so very visible or will be visible tonight, tomorrow, and Monday, but most strongly today, Saturday, January 9th, and are visible just shortly after sunset when the sky just begins to darken towards the south, the west-southwest direction. For me, that's right about over there. It ideally, if you're on a rooftop or in a second story or higher, it's going to be easier to view. So I encourage you to find somewhere or go, take a little drive and commune with these amazing beings who have been part of this earthly project, experiment since the beginning. The ancients studied, watched very, very closely the night skies. and learned from them. When there was still the recognition that there were supernatural beings on the planet, the Greek gods, the ancient Egyptian gods, they were then transposed into or believed to be travelers that went back to from whence they came. So there is an amazing symbology held in the mythology and legends of the planets and the stars. This is why probably more accurately, or certainly I align with sidereal astrology, which is the astrology of the ancients before it was distorted in the 6th century by the Roman Catholic Church, who had the current foremost scientist of the time gradually shift the picture of the cosmos so that the earth would be the center of the universe, humans. And even so, even with tropical astrology, there is still such great information and guidance to be gleaned from that. And the 3 planets that are so present this evening, tomorrow, the next day, but their energy has been here coming towards us. We've been moving into that. And again, on the heels of the conjunction on December 21st, which was Saturn and Jupiter, as I said, coming so close together, they appeared to be one, which hasn't been seen for 800 years. And tonight, it is Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury. Now, Mercury is a fascinating planetary representative of not only the god Mercury, but it has immense significance and plays a vital role, if not the most vital role, in alchemy. Often even referred to in some ways as the philosopher's stone because of its catalytic quicksilver, also known as, because it happens very fast. And in case any of you haven't noticed, our world is changing radically fast. That's why some people refer to the month that was last week, and that term has been used throughout this entire year, if you haven't heard the term, because so much has occurred every single week. And Mercury is also known or referred to or acknowledged for its trickster ability, meaning that what it appears to be is not necessarily so. And so we have representations of that are catalyzing and causing great change to take place very, very quickly. So Mercury is also very significant in that space between what is more nonverbal language and moving that into words, or what is in the unconscious made to be conscious. And it can be very surprising or shocking. That didn't happen this week, right? For some, this was surprising. For most, it was not what occurred in Washington, D.C. with the Capitol building. And yet it was still very, very shocking for most. And it has a very, very, very powerful and beautiful spiritual significance and purpose, as does everything that we encounter. Nothing is just what it appears to be. It is all an opportunity to reflect back to us something that is being called for to be looked at, worked with, felt, and transformed, particularly in this period of time as we're going through this era of transformation. Last year, many people referred to it as the reset. This is, for me, and the information that I've been receiving, the truly jumping off point of what we are going to become. And Saturn is all about structure and limits and making a mess, and yet letting something also rot and become putrefied so that it can break down and become something else. Life and death is a constant in this universe, in our world, in our being. Parts of us, beliefs, false beliefs, perceptions, misperceptions must die in order to create space. And by die, I don't mean something negative or sorrow-filled. On the contrary, in that dying, it becomes something else. It allows for something new, not just because we've gotten rid of it, but it itself becomes something new. Just as plants and bodies or what have you break down into the earth, they are recycled and become life again. And I guess that is my deepest wish and prayer for all of those I encounter in my work, is that there is a realization, there is an embracing, there is an acknowledgement of the beauty, the purpose, the equal power and force for growth that lies in the shadow, that we not fear the shadow. And that's part of the representation of Saturn. Saturn is also known as Kronos. If those of you familiar with Greek mythology, he was the father of the gods. He was a Titan. And in order to maintain power, he actually at one point resorted to eating his own children. We aren't seeing anything like that in the world today, right? With dictators, authoritarian power holders, tyrants around the world. And that is an old energy. And it is not going to move into an evolved state with us, but it cannot just disappear. That would be dismissive. It would be disregarding. It would be disrespectful. That form of duality has informed us and taught us and allowed us to explore and adventure and play in the full spectrum of a polarized spectrum for tens of thousands of years. We were exploring it at its lower levels, at its lower frequencies, and now we have chosen to explore it at a higher frequency, which means that those lower forms, and by lower, I mean not only lower in frequency, but lower in the body, in the chakra system, in the corresponding psycho-emotional and psycho-spiritual issues with the first and second chakra and somewhat into the third. And I've spoken about this before, we'll do so more again, but that's why the most crude, base, grossest, most primal parts of human nature are currently in process of transformation. Those first chakra issues surrounding our very existence, surrounding our ability to be here in a body on this planet without the levels of fear and the constant threats, whether it is of war, whether it is of terrorism, whether it is of someone having control over your life, be it in those governmental structures that are based in control and oppression and you know, lack of value of life, whether it is in your own home, as so many people live in fear in their own home, children particularly, because they have no power, they have no ability to do anything other than what is being done to them by adults. So this is what we're sitting in. This is one, the existential aspect that we are rapidly changing. And what happened this week is not so much about the people who actually did the act of breaking in, but it is in those that used those people knowingly, purposefully, completely disregarding their lives, their rights, their beingness, taking advantage of, taking for granted that they will just go along with things, disrespecting, disregarding all of these behaviors that manipulating all of the behaviors that we find in oftentimes in parents' treatment of children. And that isn't even in the, the most terrible circumstances, because even in what appears to be a normal or fine situation, there are so many different ways in which children are disregarded, disrespected, devalued, taken for granted, used, taken advantage of, manipulated in very subtle ways. But the pain and the anger and the sorrow and the loss and the fear are absolutely there nevertheless. And so this is the focal point where so much gets planted and set in that experience of the child. Kronos is also known for time. And this goes towards what I was saying about things speeding up. We have Kronos being chronology, the basis of many different words because of that. And this week, an article came forth about the Earth speeding up. It's actually speeding up in milliseconds. And usually we have actually a loss of seconds that are then added on. And in June or December, a millisecond that just allows for that. This year we have had the 28 fastest days, or 28 of the fastest days since 1960. And to the extent that those that keep the atomic clocks, etc., there is a science of time. They must actually, instead of adding on that millisecond, this year must take away what is referred to as a leap second in order for the clocks to still maintain their accuracy. And those of you who are sensitive to time have certainly experienced the difference and the paradox between the whole world in one way slowing down and yet having our days fuller than ever before. Time is a very interesting factor and a very important factor in this particular planet's experience, for time is very different in other realities or dimensions. And here it is a limit. And so there is a movement and bending of time that is allowing for this rapid leap of evolution. Watch for it. Feel time. This is one of those experiences that you can have a lifetime in a moment, particularly when you sit in quiet time or contemplation. I hesitate to call it meditation because that holds a particular form and which, you know, kind of throws many people off. It can be just sitting quietly with yourself, with what's around you. And I encourage everyone, this is the time of introspection. One of the things that are being brought forward with this alignment to go in, slow down, reflect. And of course, as I mentioned last week, this is wintertime, when the energy of the earth is to slow down, go within, in our caves, hibernate, um, utilizing all of that energy to be able to reassess and reevaluate and explore what it is that you really believe, what it is that you really um, want in your life, in the world. There is so much going on, so much that um, is available for us. So, um, I just want to talk a little bit about Jupiter. Those of you who have been around for several decades know the old expression, or maybe if you watch old movies, by Jove. And that was said when there was either a flash of insight or a surprise, a discovery of something. And in this case, Jupiter is bringing forward that spiritual expansion and that opportunity for ahas, that opportunity for deep revelation in a very short period of time. Also, if you are familiar again with the ancient gods, Jupiter was always pictured with lightning bolts and arrows. And that not only, the lightning bolt is something very, very quick, blending with, of course, the quicksilver of Mercury, but also an arrow. It goes straight to the truth. It goes straight to its mark. And another representation is the eagle, which those of you who have been following these talks know that the eagle presented itself just before the solstice and has been very, very present. And we see that also the beautiful, another contributor right now are the clouds. We have had many, many cloudy days here in the east, but there have also been noctilucent clouds, which are a very fascinating atmospheric cloud. The northern lights are similar, and they were actually non-existent at the pole, which it's very, very, very unusual that there are no noctilucent clouds. And for many weeks, they have not been present and just showed up, I think, yesterday, last couple days, over Argentina. So that, and yesterday, photographers were able to capture an amazing cloud. Please try to find it, of what looked like a bird in flight. It was huge. I think it was over China, but it was absolutely magnificent and unlike anything I've ever seen, certainly, and I think most. So do look that up and acknowledge the clouds. I know many people who work with the clouds as their teachers, their primary teachers. For me, they have always been constant companions and will come forth and reveal information when it is timely for them to step forward. And right now, that is the case. Another very, very interesting guide or energetic this week has been almonds. And for those of you, again, who are somewhat familiar with my work, you must be aware that anything and everything on this planet, in this planet, in our psyche, in our imagination, in our history, stories, books, legends, movies, everything is potentially a teacher or information or guidance. And so this week, almonds came forward. And what I mean when I say come forward, that means that it appeared in several different ways or from several different sources. Um, I was looking up something on the Farmer's Almanac, and in order to support their beautiful work, they have different different I don't know, selling things, selling points. And one of them said, eat this and you'll, you know, your life will be different or something. It's someone teaching or selling something. And the picture was of what it looked like, peanut butter. And I don't eat peanut butter, I eat almond butter. And so it suddenly made me remember, I haven't had any almond butter in a long time. And I do hope they aren't talking about peanut butter, which is delicious, but has a lot of negative factors as well for physical health. So it made me immediately think of almond butter. The next thing, later on that afternoon, a very, very dear friend and colleague sent me a dream that she had, by way of WhatsApp, because she's living in Europe at the moment. And it was all surrounding a cake that was made out of almonds and almond flour. Very, very powerful dream. And again, this is all within a hours period. I was watching something on television, which I don't generally watch um, stations that have ads. I watch movies or what have you. And there was just very, very strongly this ad came forward. It was kind of like stood out for almond milk. And, you know, every time I hear about almond milk at this point, I've read so much about the damage that is being done by the overgrowth of almond trees, et cetera, around the planet that you can look into or not. But this is my information. And so when something like that normally would come on, I would immediately pray for the earth and for a rebalancing in some form or way of human needs and the earth needs. So that appeared. And then the other thing that came up was, again, I happened to have channel 12 on WHYY, the PBS station, and was watching something I had recorded and stopped the recording, and it dropped back into the what is that, the baking show from England that I've heard a great deal about but have never watched, and for some reason was compelled to watch it for a few minutes. And of course there was one of the bakers was replacing wheat in his recipe with almond flour and actual almonds. So it was just, you know, again, this is synchronicity, in some cases, hypersynchronicity. Um, and it takes just opening up to the potential of everything being a mirror or teacher. And that happens more and more as you transform the pieces within that are impeding your natural way of being, which is to constantly receive information, look to your innate, have constant companionship and feedback and support and encouragement from all of the beings that you are in conjunction with, that you're in cooperation with. And so just a couple of the factors. I know this is a longer than usual talk about current information. These are the current energetics that are going on. but this is almost like, beginning of year, setting us up. It's not just what's going on right now, but some of the things that came forward from the information from the almond. It is the first flower of the year, and its blossom is known as the awakener. It is also known for watchfulness, for sweetness, for charm, for delicacy. In the Chinese culture, it represents um, the feminine, beauty, and uh, this is a really significant, and it does both in the Christian representation. Also, it's in the Christian Bible and has a strong symbology there as well, known as, representing the purity of the Virgin and divine favor and approval. So we have that mixed with some of the other energetics that right now indicate the need for uh, change and flashpoints, excuse me, to do that. Um, in the Chinese, it's also known as having fortitude in sorrow. So we are certainly experiencing that sorrow with all of those that we have lost to COVID and its adjunct, people not having access to healthcare that they would normally. There is a lot of sorrow, and that sorrow is one of those four key emotions that we must experience and utilize and transform. Um, and this is directly related to our um, our very blood, our very heart's blood, so to speak, because in the physical, almonds are fabulous for lowering the blood sugar, reducing blood pressure, and as well as utilized extensively in the beauty industry. So almonds are a very significant part of our world, as are so many things. And the almond is coming forth to teach us. It's also being a nut, it has a strong outer skin to cover and protect that within, that which is within. And that is something that is very, very important, that which is within, and that is most sacred. It actually blossoms, the almond tree, in late January, early February, and signifies a beginning. So we have so many different helpers indicating to us that this is a new start, this is a beginning, not only to the year, but to a decade, to this process of evolution, transformation of us individually, culturally, nationally, globally. And this transformation in many cases must be actually transmutation. And by transmutation, again, it is something that in that process becomes an entirely different thing. For example, in Native American teaching, the snake, which is very, very present and has been for this week, um, those that, and not only in the Native American teaching, but those that work with snakes, shaman that work with snake, allow the snake to bite them on many different occasions until they are now immune to the poison of the snake, and it becomes a power for change within them, a powerful ability of a shaman to transmute. And we see that in the homeopathic world, that something that is initially a poison, when it is worked through the process of to make it into a healing tincture in its dilution process, it then becomes a healing tool rather than a poison. There are so many things on a constant basis that are reaching out, making themselves available, presenting themselves to us, offering to us when we look, when we pay attention, when we choose to explore within and realize that this world, this reality, is made up of everyone's contribution, everyone's vision, everyone's choices. And that includes what is often labeled as the dark or shadow. This is a free will universe, and that means that all aspects of this universe have the right to exist, have the right to express, have the right to be fulfilled to their fullest extent. And so they too are included. They too are some of the greatest teachers, as we saw with Mercury and the trickster, that which appears one way can certainly give us a completely different perspective. So all of this is in the mix, as well as whatever it is that you have been perceiving, receiving, experiencing. This is the recipe. Nothing can be left out. Nothing should be left out. And everything is here for you, for your benefit, for your use, in a respectful way, of course, and for your recalibration, and to emphasize and reiterate and confirm that you are never alone. And when or in such time as you have transformed the major pieces within you to the extent that you know and love yourself enough to avail yourself of what is here, enough to have the space to receive in, gather in more, in order to or to transform yourself enough to allow for an opening channel of that information to you. So, with all of this here, and all of us sitting deep within this crucible, this container, this bowl of ingredients, alchemically mixing and churning, and with the fire of human emotion and feeling. For that is the great gift of being human, being here in this physical form, not the intellect, but the emotions, uncomfortable, scary, painful as they may be. There is also joy and pleasure and elation and the full spectrum between. So inviting in all of you, all that is you, inviting in the various bodies of you, your physical body, your mental body, your emotional body, your spiritual body, allowing your energy field, your wider self, your guides and teachers and masters all to join you, leading you, guiding you, down and within you. For therein is the most sacred, the most important, the truest you. All the teachers and guides and information that I've been speaking of, and that is available to each and every one of you through and in your own way, is for you, each one of us, to know thyself to the fullest extent. For when you truly know yourself, you automatically come to love yourself in the truest sense, which automatically allows you to feel, have compassion for, and love others, this planet, the divine in all its forms, including those that appear to not be divine. But that is impossible. For all is all, and one is one, meaning that all is divine. The darkest of the dark and the lightest of the light, all is divine. And therefore, no part can be shunned, disregarded, disrespected, devalued, dismissed, taken for granted, used, abused, Therefore, we can and must say, this too is us, whether it is individually, culturally, nationally, globally. For there is nothing out there that does not correspond to some part within. Allow yourself to be gently guided, led, not with your mind, not with your third eye, but through your physical and energetic sensations, to sink ever more to the inner, allowing the outer to soften and become less confining and rigid in its outline or edges. Mercury. To help bring you to that space between the unconscious and the conscious. Allow Jupiter to bring its revelatory, direct, pointed ability to inform. Allow Saturn to expose and break down that which impedes you, that which longs to be transmuted. Allow the blossom of the almond for a new beginning, a fresh start. Its sweetness, its beauty, its feminine way allow the life force from the great tree of life that it symbolizes its steadfastness to support you in this process of becoming more. Allow Eagle with its wide view and closeness to the spiritual to bring you the awareness that you are so much more than what your human definition or confines or limits would have you believe. powerful cloud teachers to show you in their movement, in their form, in their power, and in their delicacy. In their constant change, never the same. Growth. And invite and allow any of the teachers, guides, masters that you have encountered, that have revealed themselves to you at this time, at this most auspicious and potential filled moment in history, in the history of this species, in the history of this planet. And yes, even in, for us in the United States, our national history. How we grow and become more from that which appears to be negative or destructive. The ancients are saying there is much work ahead. But it is joyous and fulfilling work. For it leads to expansion and expression and evolution. In a wholly new form, in a wholly new way. And you, my dears, are here on purpose. Choosing this time, this place, this potential occurrence. To benefit from, to access and utilize the energetics, the combined knowledge and wisdom of all that is involved in this fascinating and new experiment. Know that you are dearly loved, held with the greatest of reverence and honor. Respected, profoundly valued. We bow to your courage. We acknowledge the magnificent being that you are to choose physical form, and in particular human physical form, as the vessel or vehicle through which you, as great explorers, adventurers, seekers, trailblazers, for it is in the information that you gather in the physicalization of this process that we learn and grow and become more. For this is a cooperative, collaborative effort. And we are here to gift you all that you may need, all that you may call for. connect and communicate with all that is here. Avail yourself for you are so very precious, so very powerful, so very purposeful in what you have set out to do, to become. Feel the profound blessing with which we imbue every atom of your being, every level, every part, every aspect of the breathtaking being that you are. And ever so gently, do not let your mind dictate this process of integration and re-physicalization, but instead allow yourself to feel your way. Allow the organic, natural way of your energy field and your wider self. Much like that delicious sensation of slowly and gently moving from a sleep state to an awakened state. That delicious experience of in between, just as you are coming to awareness of awakening and still lying in your bed, drifting from one state to the other. That is very similar to how you can allow yourself to move from a less physical experience back to a more physical experience without creating the separation between the two. For you certainly are not separate from anything that exists, including the other parts of you. This will be posted on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, A Healer's Universe. Those of you who are on the mailing list will also receive a link. And those of you who find it on Facebook, just press on the link. And I encourage you to feel into and experience the energetic practice as frequently as you see fit for these energetics. Certainly this weekend are here, and this level of transformation, we are just at the beginning, is going to be available throughout the year and throughout the next decade. We have much to look forward to, and much to experience. And those of you who would like to explore individually, please contact me, for this is the most powerful time to do that inner work right now, as we're all doing that work of transformation. And therefore, sessions are discounted, certainly throughout this month of January. There is an upcoming workshop on the 15th with much of the energetics that are available for cleansing, clearing, and recalibrating your system for more ease and smoothing in your process. And as always, it is with the deepest gratitude, acknowledgement that you are here on this planet at this time, and I am deeply grateful for that. Until next time, next week, enjoy.